Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. Now, as you all know by now, I always say technology works best when it brings people together. And although this is a tech podcast, I'm passionate about sharing the human stories and how those human stories combined with technology can change the world. And for those reasons alone, I'm thrilled to invite Charlie Robertson and Harry Simmonds from Studio Elros onto the podcast today. And Studio Elros is a venture studio of world-class inventors. And they create products and startups with organisations that bring positive change for people, the environment and our communities. And they believe that we can foster a culture of open-minded thinkers and builders that design products to move the world along, grounded in a fundamental belief in exploration and curiosity. And yeah, as an aging hippie, this hooked me in straight away. And they have an amazing story and that will take you on a journey from the West Midlands here in the UK, where I'm located, to Edinburgh and New Zealand. Trust me, you're going to love this one. So, enough from me. Let's get them on the show now. So, a massive warm welcome to the show, both of you. It's a pleasure to have two guests on the show. A nice change there. So today we've got Charlie and Harry. So to begin with, Harry, can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Neil, for having us on the show. I'm Harry, and I'm really a musician and a software engineer. I always loved music and maths in school and kind of coincidentally ended up in the software field or the computer science field. And I didn't know anything about it, wanted to become a doctor because that's what my dad was. And my best friend told me that you can go work for Amazon and solve problems all day, get paid lots of money. And I thought that sounded great. And kind of came across coding and just thought, this is incredible. Like, you get paid to solve problems in many different domains and industries, and kind of got swooped into big tech. Worked a bit at Microsoft and Amazon, and worked at Apple most notably, and worked on a few projects there, and on HomePod and Apple Vision Pro and in the AI machine learning world. And the ethos of Apple was incredible and just inspired me to apply my skill set to many different industries going forward. So I'm really an engineer at heart, but I'm an explorer as well. I like the outdoors. I like work that helps people out, and now on my next journey to try and figure out how I can do that even better.
Incredibly cool. Thanks so much. And Charlie, I've got you here in the UK, or should I say Edinburgh today, so it'd be great to find out a little bit more about who you are and what you do too.
Yeah, so I'm not kind of from a tech background like Harry, so I'm learning lots. I learn lots from your podcast and various other podcasts. But so my background is kind of big corporate FMCG businesses. So I spent about 6 years at PepsiCo doing supply chain and sales and commercial, and then I moved to Diageo, so the world's biggest spirits company, and there I was doing a mixture of marketing, sales, and kind of net revenue management and commercial planning. And then left there to kind of try the startup world. I've always I've not necessarily kind of followed money so much. I've followed what's interested me and kind of followed my curiosity, which is why I've done varied roles. But then I joined a startup called SellerX, who were a aggregator of Amazon FBA businesses. And I worked in the mergers and acquisitions team there because I did run my own kind of Amazon FBA business on the side for a number of years. So I kind of had some expertise growing there. And then I'm sure we'll get into how me and Harry met later on. But now obviously loving the life of this kind of fresh startup in Studio Elros. That's me.
Fantastic. And you just said there about how you met. That was going to be my next question, because obviously you're both located on different sides of the world with completely different backgrounds. So I would imagine that Studio Elros has quite an interesting origin story. So can you tell me a little bit more about that origin story and how that shared experience that you encountered there influenced the culture and ethos behind Studio Elros too?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the very serendipitous start of our journey together absolutely manifests in how we operate day to day. And I moved to New Zealand about a year and a half ago, and a part of that was just the love for the country and the culture, and kind of a very down-to-earth attitude here in New Zealand. And After a job, my partner and I wanted some time off, and she suggested we walk the length of New Zealand. There's a trail called Te Araroa, which in Maori means the long pathway. And it's for the tip of New Zealand down to the south tip. It's just over 3,000 kilometers. And you have to be a little mad to do it. But I think post-COVID, you're all thinking about life in the universe and thought that, now is the time in our life for reflection. And we decided to do it. Charlie, let him explain, had his own reason to do that. But Charlie and I met day one off the trail, and on a beach, 90-mile beach, which is just 90 miles of beach, the first section. And I think when you meet people on this trail, you don't care about where they come from or their background. You don't talk about your career or your anything. You relate as human beings. It's a very raw experience of life. You're thankful for a warm bed if it's not raining, and good food. You're eating noodles, and so it's just this really raw life experiences, which just takes you out of the rat race and makes you think about what's important in life and how do you want to live the rest of your life. And I think surprisingly, you don't come out of the walk with some epiphany of how you want to lead your life. It's very muddled, but there's this experience that you share together that is really important. Charlie and I bonded quite quickly on the trail, and I think just adventurous, a bit mad, crazy, and banter, and you spend all day walking together, so you have a lot of time for discussion. And there's both this message between us about what do we want to do after, but a muddled mix of we want to help people, we want to do work that we care about, but we also don't want to be working the rest of our lives away. We want to be doing things that allow us freedom to explore and do something like this again in a few years. So at the end of the journey, I've been having this idea of a studio for a long time. I wanted to do some of the technical work I'd been doing at Apple, but for different industries, particularly in climate. I remember sitting at my desk at Apple in 2021 when the Code Red climate report came out. And my partner is in environmental science. And it's just one of those things where you sit there and think, shit, like, what's the point? What's the point if the planet is kind of burning all around us? And it just stuck with me. And I think climate technology is one of our big pillars. And that's really how it came to be. And we wanted to apply world-class expertise to climate problems that worked in a way that allows freedom to explore and be curious.
And Charlie, anything that you'd like to share from your perspective around them?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that we both have crazy partners who want us to the country. Because mine was a similar thing. It was my partner Fiona's idea to walk the length of New Zealand. So, but I always just think back and like it was our kind of 1 year anniversary, I guess, for mine and Harry's meeting on that beach last week. So it's just a crazy thing to think. Kind of a year ago, you're just walking, you're just focused on getting to that next campsite, staying dry, staying warm, and so on. So it's just an amazing journey to be kind of now in a business together, trying to help kind of solve some of the world's biggest problems. And yeah, it's just a great place to be. And it's the exact kind of way I was hoping. It's not exactly what I thought would happen off the back of doing this amazing challenge, but it's just created a brand new kind of challenge in my life, which I'm super excited to be part of. So yes, I just love the way it's come about and its kind of randomness, but it just feels like I'm in the right place, doing the right stuff.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I mean, 2,500 interviews. People often ask me if there are any trends in the kind of success stories and startup stories that I hear. And a word that you mentioned, Harry, serendipity, is a huge part in that. I've had a startup founder at an all-time low needing a developer to bring his vision to life, and then he ended up sat on a plane next to the developer that would do that, to a founder who flew all the way to San Francisco, bet it all on a VC pitch, failed, was an ultimate low point at the luggage carousel. And then the guy I got talking to was a VC guy that was going to end up funding his business. To you guys meeting on a beach, I think it's almost like the universe gives us a little nudge in the right direction, and when those planets align. But you need to be open to it too, don't you?
Yeah, and I think it's really funny how the universe works. And I think there's something in there that, a lot of these moments, they're crazy. It's like, who would do this? And, one of the biggest reasons why startups fail is the founders don't have grit. Because it's hard. It's really hard. There's rough moments no matter how successful you've been in your career. And EA, the journey down the length of New Zealand is grit at its finest. It was really miserable. It was walking through rain, mud, and landslides and flooding. It was quite shit. So I think yeah, it's serendipitous. It's also just, I respect Charlie immensely because of the way he pushes forward. And I think we come from completely wacky backgrounds, but the more important thing is we've got grit and we're willing to learn from one another.
And something else when I was reading about you both is you emphasize building partnerships with organizations to create those meaningful products. So can you elaborate on what kind of criteria you use to select these organizations that you'd like to work with and how these partnerships typically unfold?
Yeah, so we kind of hold our kind of values and our mission to kind of solve meaningful problems in the world at our core and of all the work we're looking to do. So when we are looking for those partners, it's making sure that they have similar values and that they're trying to make a real difference, and then that's at the core of their business as well. Also, again, we've mentioned that one of our kind of core pillars is kind of climate tech sustainability and also social impact. So we really want to make sure that our partners are trying to do the same sort of stuff. We don't want to be kind of involved with greenwashing or anything like that. It needs to be a true kind of value that they hold and that they're truly trying to solve some issues. We also kind of really hold kind of key that they give us that kind of open-mindedness, that autonomy to utilize our skills, which are kind of invention and that freedom. And we need that freedom to deliver these products and to deliver these solutions. So when we're looking for partners, it can't be a transaction. It has to be a true partnership, and we have to feel part of their team and vice versa. We know we're not the experts in all of their domains, but with shared knowledge, we can build something beautiful together. And that's really kind of what we look for in partnerships.
And Harry, you've had experience working at Apple. So I'm curious, how did that experience help shape your approach to product design and development at Studio Elros? And were there any key takeaways that you found particularly influential from your time there?
Yeah, I immensely respect Apple and thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I think the thing I've worked with and talked to many engineers from many different companies and big tech companies, and there's something different about an Apple engineer, like a really great Apple engineer. And engineers at Apple truly embody and embrace product. And product as in thinking about product, the user experience. It doesn't matter if an engineer, designer, or product manager, even though there are very few product managers at Apple. It's about building the best thing possible. And that type of ownership is very much expected and embraced by everyone at the company. And so you get a lot of engineers at Apple that really know how to think about product. And when you go to other companies, they kind of think, oh, engineers, you put them in a box and they code, and then the product managers do the business case. And it's just not how it works. And so that mentality was phenomenal for me because I've always cared about product. I love the philosophy and I love the ethos of Apple about building things that matter, that are extremely thoughtful and considered. And that way of building just resonates with me. When they're not, Apple makes a lot of money, but they're not there for a quick buck. They're there to make things that matter and impact people and help people be productive. I think that mantra is something that I really think lives in Elros. And that is making sure that you're quick and iterative and agile and innovating, but at the same time, you're planning for quality. And I think a lot of software companies use agile development, which if you're unfamiliar with that, is very rapid prototyping and releasing products quite quickly so that you keep building and improving a product so it keeps getting better for the customer. Apple has that, but Apple's a hardware company. So they release big products on big dates, and it has to be top notch because that's what Apple believes they believe that matters. And so that process is actually really hard. There are very few companies that have that immense pressure to be agile and innovative, but also to plan these mega products that take years to develop and make sure that on day one of release, it is really high quality. And so we believe that process of innovation is something that can make us stand out, and that we have a whole team that breathes and lives and breathes a product. And then that type of thinking, and we bring that type of thinking to many different industries, can completely change the industries and domains that we work with. So I think the key takeaway is really living and breathing product. It's not about AI. Like I've worked in AI for a lot of years, and I'm not advertising Elros as an AI company, even though that's what I'm good at. We're solving problems and we're building products. And that's how you think about building great products. It's not about, I want to build an AI product. It's about building a great product and then figuring out what's needed. And I think Apple's really good at that.
100%. I know you guys are incredibly focused on making a difference in the world too. And sustainability seems to be a core aspect of your venture studio. So to bring to life some of what we're talking about here, how do you integrate this focus into your product development life cycle? Are there any challenges that you might face in balancing sustainability with maybe other business imperatives?
Yeah, I think that's a really hard one. I think it's a really hard one for a lot of businesses right now. Dealing with the pressure of being sustainable and producing that vision for the future, but also just, business demands, et cetera. And we're no different in some ways. Like, we have to make revenue, and the projects that we may pick may not be ideal, or maybe the company is a little early on in their culture change to embrace sustainable and innovative methods. But to me, it's more about the mentality and the culture shift, and building mechanisms for accountability. And I think we have a really strong culture at Elros, and we have our values, and we talk to each other a lot, and how every decision we make as a company, how that relates to our values and how we care about that. From a product perspective, I think AI in particular is really interesting in sustainability. For the most part, a lot of really lightweight machine learning models don't have massive energy requirements, but a lot of generative AI is a completely different ballgame, and the energy requirements are massive. If all the companies in the world started using large language models or generative AI, then it would be using a significantly more amount of energy across the world. And I think there's a lot of hype and interest in generative AI, particularly because it's so powerful. But I think if you really put on your sustainability lens and you truly care about that, do you really need to use generative AI if it's just a bunch of, pretty chatbots talking to you, or can you create a more meaningful experience in other ways? And I think one thing I really respect about Apple, and I'll use privacy as an example here, is Apple builds products related to their values. And privacy is a great example. So when Apple was looking to build great machine learning models, a lot of criticism came about, Apple's very privacy conscious, and a lot of really advanced machine learning models are server based. And so how does that impact Apple's ability to innovate? And to me, they say this publicly, this is an inside information. They say we care about both machine learning and intelligence and privacy. So they're solving both problems at once. I think a lot of companies out there want to solve privacy and sustainability, but they don't truly build a solution to solve all of them. They just build a solution to the thing that makes them the most money. And so for us, when it's, we're building a product, it's about having all of those values that the solution needs to solve all of those problems. So that means that if, generative AI is genuinely going to help a climate tech company, remove, tons of greenhouse gas emissions, that could be a good trade-off. But if you're building a generative AI for a nice chatbot that makes people feel great and nice and cushy, but doesn't bring that much value, what's the point? And so I think it's more actually about orienting your company around those values. And I think a lot of companies are doing a really good job of this. And that's obviously where greenwashing gets in. So I think we're very early on in this process, but to me, it's super important that we're building a product from multiple problems. Sustainability is one core pillar.
And one of the things that put you on my radar was how you research into so many different areas and work with all industries and everything from algae farming to recycling. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, just for anyone that's hearing about you for the first time?
Yeah, so that's, I guess part of my role is obviously kind of helping to find these partners and the initial outreach. So what's great about us and what we can do is that we can genuinely help anyone. And we believe, obviously, in the future that most companies will be tech companies. And if you don't start adopting technology, then you might be left behind. But what we believe is that we can help anyone, which just send me down. I've started like a weekly LinkedIn post of my rabbit holes, where I go down into different rabbit holes, researching different organizations and so on, and trying to find out how we can help industry. And I think that's where we're seeing kind of the potential of changes that industry, or so traditional industry, or which are based in other factories or manufacturing. They're the organizations that we need to help, because they're the ones who can make the biggest impact on kind of sustainability and solving these kind of issues that we have in the world. But then again, what's great about it is, again, it doesn't have to be AI or anything particularly fancy. It can be something quite simple. Some simple machine learning can make huge improvements in these areas. So, for example, in the algae farming, we've seen a 50% improvement in the efficiency of that. We've seen 10% improvement in pyrolysis, which is part of the kind of advanced recycling optimization. So the stats are there to show people that if you adopt some technology into your organizations, which is more traditional, which can be hard, you can see real impact. And that's what we really enjoy, is that we can go down these rabbit holes, we can research different organizations, and you can see every corner, every industry you look at, there's opportunities for software, machine learning, AI to make real step change in these organizations and help bring them into the future. And also to help them kind of with net zero by 2050 and all these new targets that are coming out. Organizations need to adopt this now to kind of help those hit those targets. And we're kind of here to help them do that. And it's great seeing that the statistics are there to show that it can make a step change, and it can help change organizations for the better.
And I know educational initiatives are incredibly important to you both. And you're also educators in AI, ML, and product design with that sustainable focus that we've just been talking about. So how does this educational aspect complement your venture building activities? Are there any synergies that might have emerged from wearing both of these hats?
Yeah, education is super important right now, especially in the AI field. I think many of us are very familiar with, the advances of AI in the recent years and the potential of it. And there's obviously education from a societal perspective, and governments are educating themselves on, both the opportunity and the threat of AI. And a lot of businesses are taking this really seriously. I think, I don't know if it's McKinsey, but a large consulting company have acknowledged that like almost 80% of large organizations are starting to build a strategy around AI. So obviously education is extremely important. I think, like anything, true education is really hard to find. And especially in the day of social media, it's a lot of stuff out there is not entirely helpful, or it's very fear-mongering. So there's two really areas that we focus on education. One is obviously the opportunities to show people there are massive opportunities in really foundational AI, like machine learning that's existed for 15 years. This isn't anything fancy. And then also education about the process. Like, how do you go about identifying problems where AI could help? But also, how do you build a culture around innovation? And design thinking companies like IDEO and tons of different innovation companies have existed for a long time, working with different corporations to try and understand the value there. But it's still not quite where it needs to be. So I'll touch a bit on the opportunity side. As Charlie mentioned, there's opportunities everywhere, from optimizing processes, operational processes, manufacturing, digital twins. There are huge amounts of opportunities that companies just haven't learned about yet. And part of our job is educating through research and development, and showing even risk analysis based on, loss if you don't adopt new technologies and what that looks like. On the process side, this is actually way more challenging. And I think a lot of people associate innovation with risk. And there's absolutely risk in innovation. I think true innovation is obviously risky. But I think a lot of people maybe don't have the experience managing that risk and how to prototype and learn and discover in a safe way that allows the organization to help the business. And I think, like 40, 50 years ago, there are a few key organizations that really started this whole concept within corporations. And today they're referred to as internal venture studios. But Xerox PARC is a phenomenal example, right? Like they basically had a whole R&D department, and their job was purely to look into new research that could help the business. And obviously out of Xerox PARC came the GUI, which is what Steve Jobs effectively used at Apple. And there's a lot more companies in 2023 that have these. And, like big companies don't really talk about it as internal venture studio or innovation studios, but they have this really big process of how to innovate, and they throw lots of money at it. And they believe that money absolutely gives them returns because they know how to hire the right people. They know how to manage risk. They know how much money to put into that. Part of our job is to educate our corporate partners that this money is worth it, but also there's a way to kind of mitigate this risk, but you need that risk in order to build really great products. So I think the education is really hard, and it's totally different outside of Silicon Valley. In Silicon Valley, there's kind of a level of a playing field that everyone understands. And I'm in Australasia now, in New Zealand, and it's different. And the educational opportunity is different because there's different industries in New Zealand, and agriculture is a massive one here. So it's education's critical. And I think the hard part is we're not consultants. We're not here to just tell you what you could do. We're here to kind of educate and also build with you.
And I was reading that you work with your team on a project basis and basically choose projects that you're passionate about. I'd love to have a look behind the curtain at that. I mean, can you share some insights into your project selection process? What makes a project resonate with you to the point where you decide to take it on?
So we work on a project basis, and we have a core team, which is kind of myself, Harry, and designer, and some other areas of business. But what we do is, first of all, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, that the organization that we're working with and partnering has to kind of have a similar values and a similar mission to us. And also, like I said before, give us that autonomy to explore and to invent and to be part of their team and in a true partnership. But the key to that kind of passion is making sure that, okay, once we identify a partner and a solution that we're trying to offer, and that we build that team for that specific project around that. So we ensure that the people we hire, so whether it's engineers, designers, whoever it may be, have a passion for that project. Because without that passion, you won't get the best solution. And we truly believe that. So obviously, Harry, working at Apple for many years, he was really passionate about building those products he was on. So without that passion, we feel like the product that we deliver would be inferior. So the passion of the people working on the project is really key to us kind of delivering on those projects. And like I said, we can partner with anyone in the world as long as they are kind of focusing on solving kind of real world problems. So it's not it's not a hard sell to find team members who want to solve those problems and help change the world. So from that perspective, it's quite easy to do that. And we have a kind of a great network in place across the world, particularly from Silicon Valley, of people who are working at the world's top tech companies, but are ready to step away and work with us on some really exciting projects, which they can kind of feel great about in helping solve some of these problems.
Love that. And given your focus on fostering a culture of open-minded thinkers and builders, what's your vision for the future at Elros? Are there any upcoming projects or initiatives that you might be able to share or offer a few teasers, and anything you're excited about at the moment?
Yeah, I'll start with the vision. The vision is it's really a selfish vision for myself. And the reason I started Studio Elros with Charlie was also quite selfish. It was to work on interesting problems with people I love working with. And what that means is working with open-minded and curious people. And I think I have learned a lot from my time at Apple and in tech, and meeting lots of interesting people. And I think there's a big trend always to put the blinders on, focus on the next big thing, and kind of maybe not critically think as much as we should. And AI is such a phenomenal example of this. Like when I was in AI 7 years ago, I don't think anyone cared. Like people would joke at Siri, and now it's the hottest thing. Everyone loves AI, and I'm much more in demand than I used to be. And so I think open-minded thinkers are people that are able to process that information and question it and think, what do we need as a society? What will make us better? What will make myself better? And those people, I think, genuinely innovate. And we all want to innovate. It's all over LinkedIn, leadership culture. But that curiosity is something that we hope to inspire with our partners and our projects and with our product. You know, you think about Apple users and the Macintosh and the iPhone, and absolutely it has inspired people across the world to create interesting things. I think in terms of what's coming up next, we've got a number of kind of discussions around some really interesting problems in the climate tech space around circularity and plastic recycling, which hopefully we'll talk more about soon. But one thing that we are working on right now is we've got a world-class team, and a lot of people have asked me, when are you going to start building your own stuff? And we're in very, very, very early talks about kind of raising some capital and building a team around that and starting to incubate our own products and be a true kind of venture studio and spin out startups from that. And I think there's a huge amount of excitement from the team around that, particularly around some incredible climate technologies. And I think the team is just super stoked to start creating.
Incredibly exciting times ahead for you both. And before I let you go, there's two individuals on opposite sides of the world that it must be incredibly challenging keeping up to speed with the trends and the technology and so many different projects. I'm curious, how do you keep up to speed with this? How or where do you self-educate? And Charlie, I'll throw that to you first.
So I'm a podcast guy. So like I said, I've reached out to yourself, Neil, and I listened to your podcast, and that's how I kind of self-educate. So the High Performance Podcast by Jake Humphreys. So that's how I kind of do my learning. And from a tech side of things, like I'm not from a tech background, so Harry graciously always gives me a bit of. I'll come to him with a question about, okay, what's quantum computing, and he gives me a lowdown on that. And rest assured, that's a few years away. We don't need to be experts on that yet. But Harry kindly gives me some educational lessons on AI and machine learning and the latest developments. And then I just self-educate using basically podcasts like yours and the other podcasts that are out there. So that's how I kind of stay up to date and try and keep my knowledge growing throughout the weeks.
Love that. And obviously it's always great having a Harry on speed dial. But Harry, where do you go? You've got to get yourself on speed dial. How do you stay up to speed?
I wish. I've got a long philosophical answer because that's me, I guess. But I've never been a grinder. What I mean by grinder is someone that, like, there are some people out there that are laser focused on upskilling and self-education and all this stuff, and I can't be bothered, to be honest. Like I just find it, like, my days are long. I'm stuck in my head. I've got lots to do, and I just find it the last thing I want to do is self-educate. But what I do value immensely is what I think most people that are really good at self-educating have inherently, and that's curiosity. And I think I don't have an agenda. I think I'm just always curious about different things, and sometimes I get into my own little world, and it could be about the new machine learning methodologies of 2023, or it could be about, what the next, or what dangerous spiders are in Australia, because I just visited them, freaked out of spiders. So, like, to me, that kind of mindset is important to me. And I think fostering that organically actually just self-propagates yourself to just, learn about new things. So, I spend lots of time reading books and different things that pique my interest. And I think that mentality to me is so important. I love reading philosophy, and that just leaves me for hours thinking about different things and how it applies to the world today and technology and all that stuff. So I'm a weird self-educator. I'm not your typical self-educator, but
oh no, that's pure gold. Love that. And for everyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about some of the things that you do, maybe how they can get involved, maybe even communicate with you guys and your team, where would you like to point everyone listening? And Harry, I'll throw that to you first, and then we'll ask Charlie in a moment, because I want to find out more about his weekly LinkedIn post too. But Harry, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active these days, and where I find a lot of interest reading people's different thoughts. So yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. And if you want to learn more about the company, our website's on our LinkedIn profile, and it's studioelros.com. But yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have a discussion.
Awesome. Well, I'll get both those links added to the show notes so people can find that nice and easily. And Charlie, anyone wants to go down the rabbit hole with you on your weekly post, where's the best way of finding out more about you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, I live on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of the hours of the day. So I'll be a quick responder if everyone does reach out to me. And then plug to my weekly post, the rabbit holes I go down into the research world. So yeah, you might find out some interesting industries you've never thought of before. And I always put a nice picture of a rabbit in an interesting place. So from AI generation, there we go. I'm using AI already.
Absolutely love chatting with you both today. I love how you're co-creating products and startups together with exceptional organisations that bring about positive change for people, the environment and our communities. It's so refreshing to hear that, and also how you foster this culture of open-minded thinkers and builders that design products to move the world along, grounded by that fundamental belief of exploration and curiosity. And curiosity, serendipity, being open to the ideas and opportunities around us, I think it's a theme that I hear time and time again on this podcast. So just a big thank you for sharing your incredible story, how you met on that beach in New Zealand all those years ago. But thanks for sharing it with me today, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Wow. I just love stories like this that take you on a journey of curiosity, serendipity, innovation, from the West Midlands here in the UK to Edinburgh, New Zealand and beyond. And if you've got a story like this that you want to share that covers life, technology, the universe and everything in between, or you've just got a little story, a little snippet that you'd like to share with me about how the universe gave you a little nudge in the right direction, I'd love to hear it. Because stories like we've shared today really give me that goosebump moment, and I'd love to recreate that and hear more stories. And I know each and every one of you will have very similar stories, so please share them with me. techblogwriteroutlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes, nice and easy to find. I want to hear your stories, your questions, your insights, so keep them coming. Other than that, I'll be back tomorrow with another guest and another story, so hopefully you'll join me again too. But thank you for listening today, and until next time, don't be a stranger.